Hey guys, thanks for showing up once again. Welcome back to the Calibrate Tools channel. And today we're going to talk about reciprocating saws and how to use them correctly. So stick around and I'll see you guys right after this. Okay guys, this is a reciprocating saw, otherwise known as a Sawzall, and I guess you can infer from that name Sawzall, it means that it can cut through just about anything. Well, that's almost true. There are so many applications for this tool, including cutting through metal pipes to be more specific, plastic or PVC piping, even stone and ceramic tile. It's great for slicing through material above your head. Just make sure you wear your safety glasses when doing any overhead cutting, especially if it's metal pipes. Having metal shavings fall into your eyes could cut the day shorter than you wanted it to be. So please don't neglect your safety equipment. Okay, so what exactly is a reciprocating saw or a Sawzall? Well, if you ever used a handsaw or a hacksaw, this is the mechanized or motorized version of those, which means it can cut through materials much quicker and it can cut through a wider variety of materials that are much tougher to cut through with your arm. The parts of a recip saw or reciprocating saw or Sawzall are pretty basic. All right, so let's go over them. So this is a corded reciprocating saw, as you can tell right here. This is the handle. This is the trigger with the trigger lock. So if I press the trigger and I press the lock at the same time, the trigger will stay locked, okay? And I can remove my hand and it'll stay engaged, for example. So in order to release it, as you just saw, all I had to do was press the trigger and it released it. So why would you want to lock the trigger in the first place? Well, if you notice this space down here, this is mainly for your hand to grip. If you're gripping up here, you're pulling the trigger at the same time, and you don't want to do that. So you lock the trigger in and you place your hand here. And if you're cutting in an awkward position, you may need to move your hand around the handle area more freely to allow more comfort and more leverage. And that's why there's a trigger lock, to free your hand up to move around the tool more freely without having to be stuck at the trigger area while still keeping the tool in operation. Now this red dial here directly beneath the trigger controls the speed at which the saw or the blade reciprocates, meaning the speed at which it moves back and forth. This dial controls that speed here. So right now it's on the lowest setting, but if you turn it all the way to the right, it will be on its highest setting. Now these blades can move back and forth at about 2,600 SPMs on the low end and about 3,000 SPMs on the high end. I think some can move even a little bit faster than that, depending on the brand. By the way, SPM stands for strokes per minute. But there's another feature of the reciprocating saw that allows the blade to move in an orbital direction. In other words, the blade moves like this instead of this. Okay? And that's achieved by this portion of the reciprocating saw right here. This dial right here is the orbital action dial. Right now it's on 0, so the blade will just move back and forth. But if you take the dial off of 0 and you move this dial to any one of these 3 Roman numerals, 1, 2, 3, the blade will take on an orbital action. And the way you do that is by pressing this red release button down and moving the dial to any one of these 3 orbital speeds. Straight back and forth strokes are better for cutting through harder materials like metal, steel for instance, and it's also great for scrolling through wood. Orbital action is great for demolition work, but it's not recommended for cutting through metal. Now this area right here, this rubbery area, is called the Insulator Boot or the front grip, or boot, okay? And it's where you grip the tool, right? And you see the letters AVT on the grip here. What does that stand for? It stands for anti-vibrational technology. And that just means that the tool has a shock absorbing mechanism inside to reduce the amount of vibration the user will experience. This shiny metal piece here is called the shoe, and this is what rests against your material when you're cutting, right? That's why it's called the shoe, because it rests against the material. And you can also remove the shoe by depressing this red button on the side here, okay, and pulling the shoe out. Okay, so when you press this red button and you unlocked the shoe and removed it, it gives you better access to this part of the tool here that holds the blade in. And that's called the blade clamp or blade release. So when you want to remove the blade, first of all, make sure that the tool is unplugged, that it has no access to electricity at all. Then you want to take this portion of the blade clamp. If you can see that, it kind of sticks out and protrudes. Let me give you another profile. You see this portion here? You want to pull that up. So you stick your finger in there and you pull that up and you can pull the blade out. That's how you release your blade from the tool. If you want to install a blade, simply take the blade, make sure that it's up like that, of course. You stick it back in the slot, pull it up, stick it in again, and there you go. Take your shoe, put it over the blade, through the opening, slide this portion of the shoe back in, then press the lock button, and your shoe is now locked in place again. Now you're ready to cut something. Okay guys, we got some reciprocating saw blades here. They're about 6 inches. Okay, let's look at this one. This one's a general purpose blade. It's good for cutting nail embedded wood. What does that mean? The wood can have nails in it and you can still cut it. Then it can also cut metal as well as PVC pipe. This one is just for wood. This one's for metal, and you can tell by how fine the teeth are on this one. Finer teeth blades are great for cutting metal. And this blade here is good for cutting cast iron. Anything for cutting wood, the teeth are much coarser, meaning that they're not as fine as the metal cutting blade right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut a couple of pieces of material with these blades. Okay, so we're going to use our general purpose blade to cut this metal pipe here. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is put on our safety equipment, our safety glasses. We're going to set our knob at the highest speed. And we're going to make sure that we don't want any orbital action, because orbital action is not good for cutting metal. So let's put it back to 0. Put the shoe against the material, let it reach full speed, and then descend. So we're going to use our metal cutting blade to cut the same pipe. We're going to use our wood cutting blade to cut this right here. Put the shoe against the material, pull the trigger, and let it reach full speed. Okay guys, here's a tip about the blades. Sometimes the blades can get bent, but they can't be hammered out and used again. And if the tips of the blade get damaged, you can take a tin snip, cut the blade at an angle at the new teeth, and you can use the blade like that again. And also, most blades are interchangeable between brands. So guys, if you learned something today about reciprocating saws, hit the like and subscribe button. Don't forget to share, and I'll see you guys in the next one.